Hey, Amie.
Yeah, Juan?
Give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. We want to hear from you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media. On X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. And a pleasant good evening to you this Monday evening here at the time that we are recording. Amie, ¿cómo estás?
Was that for Jose Ayala?
That is for Jose Ayala, who I guess he really missed. He's the only one who acknowledges that I was trying to do it. I didn't even do my Vince Scully voice there, so let's try it again. A pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. Amie, how was your weekend?
It was amazing. I was up in Sacramento scouting the A's new stadium. No, I'm just kidding. I was in Sacramento, but not for that reason.
we are gonna talk Sacramento on this show, so you can save it for that. Before we start the show, guys, I'm just gonna start off the show with some personal news. Some of you may have discovered this show, Baseball Shangri-La, because you guys listen to the Bleed Lows podcast. I hosted the Bleed Lows podcast, and Amie was a contributor on the Bleed Lows podcast. I recently, for those of you who follow me on social media, I recently announced that I stepped down as a host of the Bleed Lows podcast. I am no longer going to be affiliated with that podcast. And look, there's no drama, guys. There was no problems. There was no issues. It was really my decision, and I got a lot of stuff going on. So not only am I doing this show, but
I mean, you're a world famous movie creator. I mean, how many movie debuts have you had this year?
Yeah, for what Amie is talking about, I made a little short film that was playing the film festival circuit, and so I'm kind of getting stretched thin, and at the same time, I have my wife, my kids in her senior year at I was just getting pulled in a lot of different directions, and I just didn't have the time to devote. And I think it's only fair to those guys that I be fully committed to them. And I wasn't, in the interest of time, I wasn't able to fully commit to them. So I made a decision to step down. And that what it reminded me of, as Amie and I were talking, we really didn't do a very good job of specifying in the beginning, guys. Even though both Amie and I met on Bleed Lows and we were a part of the Bleed Lows podcast, this show was never affiliated with the Bleed Lows podcast. Like I said, I know the reality is that you guys watch every Dodgers podcast that's out there. I know you guys, will listen or watch Dodgers Nation or Dodger Blue. I don't know how many other Dodgers podcasts.
Three innings save. There's so many out there.
Locked on Dodgers. I know you guys listen to all those. I'm not that, myopic to think that you guys only watch this show or listen to this show. But when we started this show, look, it was my fault. I did not make it clear that these shows were two different shows and that they were not affiliated, even though, there was a little bit of recognition because we both came from there. But so just because I'm not on the Bleed Lows podcast, what does that mean for this show, Baseball Shangri-La? Absolutely nothing. As David Wants a Taco shouted out to me saying, but we're still on for next week. And it's like, yes, I am going to continue to do Baseball Shangri-La. I really love doing this show. I love working with Amie. And it's not that I didn't like working with those other guys on Bleed Lows, because they're all great. It's time commitment. They're different shows. Bleed Lows does a lot of other stuff, and Amie and I we stick to our schedule.
We're old and we have a schedule. So our little standalone universe that we've created here kind of makes it easy for us to build the rest of our life around it.
Exactly. So that was just, I want to thank Amy for giving me the time to make that announcement. So again, there's no bad blood between me and the Bleed Lows guys. All
Was
right.
that a pun? Was that a blood pun?
And blood, yeah. I gotta get the marbles out of my mouth. As I said, nothing's going to change. I will still continue on this show. But I just want to thank you, Amy, for giving me a little time to once again to just clarify that we're two separate shows, guys. We were never affiliated to begin with.
And I think that gets a little confusing out there. Just like you said, there's so many Dodgers podcasts, but there's a lot of baseball podcasts. And then they have like the parent podcast with, different ones seated under them. It's hard to know who's affiliated with who, but yeah, we are a standalone. I'm grateful that you did Bleed Los for as long as you did, because that was my opportunity to kind of get my feet wet in podcasting. And, here we are. So all good things.
And look at us. Look at us now. Look at
Mhm.
us now. Okay, so that's going to do it. Let's go ahead and talk. Let's get into the business. It's funny because right before we recorded this, my wife said to me, she's like, "Wait, you're recording again, but baseball's over." Oh no, the
Well,
business of baseball never ends. The business of baseball is year round. Amy, let's start first because we got
whoa,
a
whoa,
lot of top.
whoa. I had a base running blender, I think.
Oh, here we go. Let's go ahead.
I'm trying to see where I think I caught it. And yeah, so when we were talking about catchers last week, I mentioned we were talking about Dalton Rushing, and I referred to him as coming up last year, and it was Hunter Fiducia that I was thinking of. So I totally swapped those. That was on me. So it's not just you getting the base running blenders, but I did catch it before Jose Ayala. So haha.
Isn't that amazing that, we were pretty good for the regular season, and once baseball season's over, that's when we start making mistakes?
Well, much like your wife, I tend to I follow it, but I don't this is my time to do other things. So this year's going to be a little novel for me in how invested we're going to have to be in some of the off-season stuff, because this is usually my downtime.
So let me,
So
I just noticed this right now. You are wearing your Dodgers World Series gear.
I am.
And, everyone and their mother is now wearing that World Series gear. I think it is starting to show up if you ordered it
Oh, I
online
bought
or
this at the celebration at the stadium. Let me just fluff my hair on that one. So no, I got this one in the stadium, but yes.
So this past weekend was my niece's birthday. And so I show up and I'm thinking to myself, I got to look somewhat presentable. Why come everybody was wearing their Dodgers World Series gear at this party?
Because it's
And
fancy.
and it cracked me up because everybody was walking up to me saying, "Congratulations." Like I had won the World Series myself. They're like, "Hey, congratulations." My wife was just laughing. She was wearing her World Series Dodger gear. And I was just like, if I would have known that everybody was wearing their Dodgers World Series gear, I would have worn it.
Did
It
you not
cracked
see
me up.
her before she walked out of the house?
She did, but again, I look, as my daughter always says, I dress like Adam Sandler. And if anybody has seen the videos of Adam Sandler, he's in a hoodie and basketball shorts. And that is my uniform. That is how I choose to go about the world, is in a hoodie. And so when we go out in public, I try to look presentable so my wife is not in shame that she's married to Adam Sandler. So I combed my hair, it looked like a cow licked my head. Yeah,
Whoa.
it looked like a cow licked my head,
Okay,
but
fancy.
yeah. So that's why I didn't decide to wear my Dodger gear. But everyone, like my cousin, people I didn't know, there was this guy wearing a Dodgers Letterman jacket with World Series, and I was just like, wow.
Oh,
But
I made
she
sure to head to the airport in my Dodgers stuff, because if I'm gonna go to Sacramento, I'm gonna represent too. So
so is that the criteria now? We use all off season to represent and flaunt that the Dodgers won the World Series. That's what we're doing.
sorry, this is year round for me, Juan. I
All
don't know
right.
if you've never seen my closet, but it's predominantly it's Dodgers and work clothes.
All right.
So
So we got that going. All right. No more base running blunders, right?
I mean, unless you had one, did Jose
No.
Ayala catch you?
No, but I'm going to save this for when we do updates on the players, because I do want to address some of the comments that were left on last episode, and some of the comments were related to players. So that's why I want to mix it in. And one of them was Jose Ayala. But why don't you start off first with updates that we need to know about current players?
I don't really have too many. I did see something come across about Gratterall. He did have right shoulder surgery on his labrum on November 14th. So Dr. Neil Elatrash, he does a lot of their surgeries. So
The Dodgers
he
are keeping Neil in business, let's just say.
100%. Well, the Dodgers and then the rest of Major League Baseball, but he's expected to return in the second half of 2025. But in going through I don't know if you went through the comments on some of the stuff on social media, but people dang, he played through that and still, in the few games that he was able to be in, helped us get to the World Series. And I think that's just a testament to all these players. I think it Daniel Hudson, so many of them play through the injuries and the hurt and just, luckily it pushed us across the finish line this time so that we could be World Series champions.
And you know what? That was huge of Brewstar, because, Evan Phillips went down.
Mhm.
If they didn't have Gratterall available, where were they going to turn to for another arm in the bullpen? And especially the way they used the bullpen
Mhm.
in those last
I don't
series.
have
So
the stats, but didn't they pitch more than the starting pitchers? I think wasn't that
I
I
wouldn't be
saw something like
surprised.
that floating around, but I haven't researched it myself. But
I mean, if you look at it, I mean, they had to cover at least 4 innings almost in every game.
well,
And then
after
they had to
Treinen went
pitch.
that 2+ innings in game 5, it literally was who's left? And in walks Walker Buehler, but we walked across that finish line pretty much gassed. And speaking of Walker Buehler, he did just get special recognition by the city of Lexington. The mayor and them celebrated him in his city, so good for him.
I did see that. Just to wrap things up on Brewstar, it does suck because this is now the second year in a row that
Mm.
he is going to miss a considerable amount of time. So that's really probably got to be very frustrating. And now you got to start to wonder, second year in a row with an injury like that, where he's going to miss a lot of time, and he's a big dude. So it's is this you hate to see it, but I feel like when players start getting injured, it becomes
Mm.
more common because, of course, the greatest predictor of future injury is past injury. So I'm not going to completely go there, but it's got my attention
But I'm
with
I'm
Brewstar.
curious too if, had he been allowed to heal or if, he had torn the labrum, if he just has surgery in season, does that speed up his healing process and he's there, closer to the start of the season or even spring training, but he opted to do his best with what he had to be there for the team. And does that factor into it too? Of yeah, he's injured, but look what it cost him.
That is a very fair point. Did he do more harm to himself by playing in this postseason and taking one for the team, literally,
Mhm.
at this point?
He pulled a Tony Gonsolin potentially.
Yeah, I did see the Walker Bueller thing. I am very curious of the rumors that are popping up that Walker Bueller, that the Braves are very interested, the Bravos are very interested in
Hmm.
Walker Bueller. Again, I have to believe that the Dodgers they're pretty confident that they're going to be able to come to terms with Walker Bueller, because to not extend a qualifying offer to Walker Bueller, and if they end up losing him for nothing, that's going to be a little head scratcher for me, because that's usually not how this organization updates. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on. But again, as we talked about on our last episode, I don't think movement is really going to start until after the winter meetings or when Juan Soto decides where he wants to go. And what did I say on the last episode? I said I don't believe the rumors of Juan Soto to the Dodgers. And sure enough, whoever was listening to our show, it could have been Jeff Passan, it could have been one of those other baseball
Mhm.
insiders. They come out and that they report that the Dodgers are really not, that they're not going to aggressively go after Soto
So in
unless the
so in
price
in
comes
your
down.
words, what I usually get texted from you is they were listening to our show?
Exactly. This is why you guys need to tell all your friends to either watch or listen to Baseball Shangri-La, because we are able to predict the future here. We are able to tell you what's exactly going to happen.
That's, while I love that, I don't even really know where to go with our predictions here. I'm going to go with a little bit more solid information. So the Dodgers have signed, or at least gotten a couple minor league deals. So right-handed pitcher Justin Jarvis, he was a fifth-round draft pick of the Brewers in 2018. So last season he split his time as a starter and reliever in Double A and Triple A. So he has been signed to a minor league deal. And then left-handed reliever Joe Jocks also has a minor league deal with an invite to spring training. So he pitched in about 25 games in the majors with Boston and Arizona over the past 2 years. So that was the only other movement I kind of saw.
And I know that those names may be like everybody's going like, huh, what, huh?
Mhm.
Those are things that every year the Dodgers end up picking up a project, right? A project or two, and they end up making contributions in some cases, larger contributions to the season. So even though those names may not have our attention now, the minute I saw those signings, Amie, I just thought to myself, project, and you
Project
just
or trade or potential trade chip.
exactly. You don't know what they're going to go ahead and do. Do you have any other player updates?
That's all I had. Was there anything on?
Well, I wanted to address one of the comments of Jose Ayala on our last episode, and in particular when I said that the Dodgers don't have any position players in the minor league system that are ready to move forward. And Jose brought up the name James Outman. And I
Mhm.
think James Outman is a very interesting name because, like we talked about in the last episode with Gavin Lux, like what does Gavin Lux's future look like with the Dodgers? I think you could say the exact same thing as James Outman. Now, Jose, here's the thing. With James Outman, I really don't consider him a minor leaguer. He's playing in the minor leagues, but the last 2 years he had himself more than a cup of coffee up in the major leagues. Now, last year was really disappointing, and I think
Yeah.
there's no other way you can look at it. It was a step back for him. So I think it's going to be very interesting going into spring training how the Dodgers view James Outman. Do they view him as a legitimate major leaguer and he's going to have a shot to make the team, or are they going to start looking at him as a trade chip? Look, he's a fellow Stalloner, so I root for him. He's a part of the Stalloners Club. But the numbers are the numbers, and the problem is there's a lot of competition on this team for spots, and you
Mhm.
have to produce. And he, unfortunately, I was happy to see that he was at the parade. He got a chance to partake in all of that. But as of right now, Jose, it hurts me to say this because again, he's a fellow Stalloner. I don't see a future in the Dodgers organization for James Outman, but I could be wrong. He may make an adjustment, and if he has a monster spring, he may end up changing the Dodgers' opinions. Amie, where do you stand on James Outman?
I mean, I would like to see him get a shot. I don't, is he somebody that I mean, I know he played a couple times in right field. Do you give him the shot there, or is it that the lack of offensive production is really hurting him, kind of like it did with Miguel Vargas? And is that something where while he would be great on another team, like you said, we're a little bit more impacted on the Dodgers? So does he get moved as a trade chip out that way? Do you have kind of a Michael Busch type thing? I know Busch didn't really get as much playing time as Outman did because Outman was up almost for a full season in 2023, and then this year was a lot less playing time in the bigs, but he's a little bit more seasoned in that respect. I don't know. Does he get kind of rehomed in this situation? I guess remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think that's what it all comes down to is it's a numbers game, and there's just not. I don't see a spot with him, and this is before we see what they do in free agency in terms of who they bring. Because if they end up re-signing Teoscar, look, Andy Pages put up better numbers than James
Mm.
Outman. Like Andy Pages really showed that he can compete at this level,
Which is
and
unfortunate because Outman kind of did that in 2023. It
well,
just
and
didn't happen here in 2024.
And that's the other reason why I feel the Dodgers need to sign players in free agency because the verdict is still out on Andy Bacchus. Yes, he had himself a nice season in 2024, but looking at James Outman, now there's more tape on Andy Bacchus.
Mhm.
So now the
Gonna go through
league,
that same sophomore situation that everybody does, Bellinger, all of them.
yeah, so it's like the league, if they haven't already, they're going to adapt to you. And now Andy Bacchus is going to have to prove that he can adapt to whatever changes, whatever they saw on him in the tape. So I feel Andy Bacchus still has a lot to prove. So I just wanted to go ahead and address that, Jose, in terms of James Outman. Like I said, I am rooting for him, but I am
Mhm.
curious. I think we'll see in spring training how serious the Dodgers are about considering James Outman. And of course, you can't lose sight of the fact that you need depth because, if anything, we always know injuries are part of the game, especially with this organization. So if someone does go down, you want to be able to go to your farm system and, try to address it. But
But
at
not
this,
at the detriment of just having him languish down there, because
exactly.
that's not fair, because they did have quite a few of those players where it felt like that's what was happening. That's also the conversation you hear around our team about even just the catching situation, and I think we already talked about that. So it's like, are you so impacted that these guys aren't gonna get a fair shot? You don't wanna just use them as your fire extinguisher in the background, because that's not fair. But if you sign somebody like Teoscar and then you don't bring anybody else necessarily in free agency, maybe you re-sign Gike, and so you do have that backup, and then you keep Outman to see how that goes. Do you do it that way, or does he have, better value as a trade chip right now, going into the new season? And those are all of the things that I'm happy I don't have to juggle in the front office, and we just get to speculate about.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that is the concern right there, Amy, is like, look, if you guys don't have any plans for his future, you have to give him, like you did Michael Bush, an opportunity to, if maybe he can play every day somewhere else. And maybe what contributed to his struggles in 2024 was the inconsistency and the ability to not be able to have consistent at bats, and maybe going somewhere else will give him the consistent at bats. I mean, at this point, I think he deserves the right. He's got a taste of it. He was a major leaguer for 2 years now, so I think he deserves a legitimate chance to make a major league roster. So that's why I'm curious just to see how the Dodgers approach them, and I think a lot of that will be impacted by what they do in free agency.
Mhm. I agree.
All right, so let's move on. There's I don't know if you guys know this, but there are renovations that are taking place at Dodger Stadium. There
Have you
were some.
seen all the grass torn up?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. If you've seen on social media, there are pictures that are surfacing of just how tore up the whole outfield is. And so basically the renovation that is taking place, do you have the details on it, Amy?
It's basically on level 1. It could potentially impact some of the clubhouses down there, but ultimately it'll be completed before the 2025 regular season starts. So similar to when they were like kind of handling the pavilion renovation, we saw all of that happen in the off season, and then it was ready to go before that next season.
And to be clear, for those who don't know what we're talking about, is the Dodgers are renovating both the home clubhouse and the visiting clubhouse. Now, there aren't any specific details in terms of what exact changes they're doing to them, but it's going to cost $100 million. That's what has been confirmed. Bob Nightingale of USA.
You're welcome, because that's what my seat helps go to.
There you go. Of USA Today confirmed that it's going to be 100 million. But Amy, I'm curious. Look, Dodger Stadium is the third oldest stadium in Major League Baseball.
Are you about
Okay.
to say something blasphemous about our stadium?
No. What I find interesting, because Wrigley Field did this a couple of years, I think, after they won the World Series, and that's a really old stadium. I love that stadium, but they redid their clubhouses too. And so this whole idea of modernizing these old stadiums like Fenway and like Wrigley. I mean, with Yankee Stadium, they ended up rebuilding a whole new stadium. I don't think they should do that with Dodger Stadium, but With
Okay,
what
that's
they
that's what I was worried about you saying.
No,
Thank you
no.
for clarifying.
I think it's crazy when they bring up those ideas of building it in downtown. I'm just like,
Mm.
you're nuts. Look, you think parking is bad or getting out of the stadium is bad right now at the Ravine. Can you imagine what it's going to be like if they built that stadium in downtown?
Well, I think we've both been to even San Francisco, like, getting parking, if you can't get it in, like, a couple of the lots that they have, like, just buying in some of the independently owned lots or parking on the street is a nightmare. So as much as I hate the ingress and egress out of that stadium parking lot, I at least know I have a spot waiting for me when I get to the stadium.
Look, when I go to San Francisco, I use public transportation. I don't even like. There are times where the hotel where I was staying at, I walked from the hotel to the. I just don't even bother parking in San Francisco. In San Diego, I've done it before. They have a parking structure that's in front of the stadium. There's also a couple of lots, but San Diego's unique because it is in that city, in that right in the middle of the city, but there is access to public transportation. They also shut down streets in San Diego. It's very similar to what they do actually in Fenway in Boston. They do that. But look, what I was getting at, Amy, is I love that they have found ways to modernize Dodger Stadium without completely destroying Dodger Stadium. Like, it still feels like Dodger Stadium, but I love what they've added to it. The center field plaza, I think, has been a victory for them. I think that's a win for them. I think it's been great. So
And they do still have that space underneath. So they have the Dodger Stadium clubhouse, which is on the home field side, so the third base line. And then you have the visiting clubhouse that's on the first base side. There was like another clubhouse that they've since shut down in favor of I think the visitors clubhouse that they're currently using. So that is viable space for them to potentially use in this renovation too, I would assume. I mean, I wasn't involved in the planning, but
we shall see what if more specific details come out. But what I did think it was interesting was, look, there's many things that are appealing to coming to play for the Dodgers. I think number one would have to be the fact that you have a chance to win the World Series. People are going to see you when you play for the Dodgers. But
Yeah,
I,
fans in the stands cannot be overrated, underrated, rated enough. But like just can you like some of those teams that we see out there when you don't have people show up, like how disheartening is that?
Absolutely, but this argument that I'm hearing now that these renovations could help in convincing players to join the Dodgers. So if they do state of
Hmm,
the art like training,
more than they already have?
well, exactly. I mean, we are not privy when we go in there as press. We are in the clubhouse, but there are more aspects to
We don't
that.
we don't get access to the facilities beyond that.
Exactly. So that's what I mean by state of the art training facilities and other stuff like that. Like, I wonder how much of that would really matter to players.
I think
Because I thought that was a
it's
very
like the
interesting.
Dodgers or the Yankees, like, those, like I think because they're such, dynasty teams, like, I think that kinda stands alone on itself, and then everything else is a perk or a bonus.
Look, I only bring this up because it is for those of you guys who aren't following at home, but we now have our second Major League Baseball team that is going to be playing in a minor league stadium next year. And
Did you hear Robert Robert, did you hear Manfred's, tears when you read that article?
look, I will say this because I feel for those of you who don't know, so Tampa, the city of Tampa, was affected tremendously by a hurricane. So this really is tragic, and this
Mhm.
is a little different than the athletic situation. But basically, the top of that stadium was just torn to bits. And look, I've been to that stadium. I am not a fan of that stadium. When I saw the Doyers play the Rays in that stadium, I felt like I was watching two teams play in a warehouse. Like, I get that they have the Stingrays out in right field, but there didn't seem to be any personality to that stadium whatsoever. So the fact that the roof of that stadium was completely torn up, and as a result of that, they can't play at that stadium in 2025. So they're going to play in 2025 in a minor league ballpark stadium. Amie, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, so the Yankees managing partner Hal Steinbrenner, he's allowing the Rays to use that Tampa Bay facility to play in, and like you said, it's a minor league facility. He actually had a message, and it just said, "We're happy to extend our hand to the Rays and their fans by providing a major league quality facility for them to utilize this season. Both the Yankees organization and my family have deep roots in the Tampa Bay region, and we understand how meaningful it is for Rays players, employees, and fans to have their 2025 home games take place within 30 minutes of Tropicana Field. In times like these, rivalry and competition take a backseat to doing what's right for our community, which is continuing to help families and businesses rebound from the devastation caused by hurricanes Helene and Milton." I really liked the ending there, like really bringing into perspective, minor league field aside, like this is about, like, take the rivalry out of it. This is about helping our basically our baseball brethren to be able to play, and the employees and everybody else involved, because it's not just the baseball team. It's everybody who helps make that ballpark go.
And they deserve credit for that. The Yankees do deserve credit for that. The only thing that I would add to that statement is that the Yankees are also going to profit from
Oh,
having
sure.
the Rios play in that. The reports that I have seen, and I don't think this is confirmed, but they're saying that I think the Yankees are going to get 15 million for allowing the Rays to play in that stadium this year. So while everything he said is absolutely right and it is in the spirit of community, in the interest of full disclosure,
Make
it's
sure
not
we
a
have both sides.
it's not a complete charity case. It is not Steinbrenner being out of the goodness of my heart, "I'll let
Man,
you guys play there for free."
I
They are making
honestly,
money.
I thought that that's, like, based on the original statement, that's kinda what I thought it was, but you're right, it makes sense, like, why would you just yeah, alright. Way to bring me back to earth, thanks.
Look,
But to your point, that we now have 2 major league teams playing on essentially minor league fields. I know that they're saying that, that Steinbrenner Field, what is it? Yeah, Steinbrenner Field it's a major league quality facility, but it's still not a major league ballpark. It's a spring training facility. So they're gonna be playing there in Steinbrenner Field. The A's are gonna be at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento. But as far as my comments about Rob Manfred, more about his tiers not taking away anything from the hurricane, but we all know he wants to expand. He wants more expansion teams in the MLB, but the thing was they need to resolve the issues with the current team situation, which I am 100% behind. If you can't take care of the teams you have now, we have no business expanding. We don't need to dilute the MLB further than it is. But now you've got 2 teams that basically need to be housed somewhere at some point. And I don't know if you read it, but Bill Shaken had that article in the LA Times. Basically, Nashville, Charlotte, and Raleigh are interested. Austin, San Antonio, Salt Lake City, San Jose, Mexico City, they're all interested in a team. So if they can lure either of these, if the Las Vegas deal doesn't go through for the A's, like, you have a bunch of cities that are looking for baseball.
But not only that, what really sucks about this is the Rays already had a deal in place for a new stadium
Mhm.
for 2028. Now, the issue at hand, not only has the hurricane impacted the physical stadium where the Rays play in 2025, but the hurricane also delayed votes on bond financing for that stadium. And this is the part that I think really sucks is now the owner of the Rays is going to use this because city officials have now second thoughts about using public financing to build a ballpark. And at this point, Amie, I have to say, I don't think I blamed them. When your city was devastated by a hurricane, is it right to use public funds to go build a stadium right now when there's
Right.
people in your community that probably need that to rebuild their homes, rebuild their businesses? So
And
I
that's not including the 56 million in damages to Tropicana that they would need to fix just for them to play there for the next couple of years before they get to 2028. So
And that's why I'm saying this situation is different than the athletic situation
Mhm.
because we are talking about a natural disaster. I
Yes.
just think it sucks that already we're playing games where the owner of the Rays is like, "Well, if you guys don't approve this bond, then I may go somewhere else." They were
Mhm.
bringing up I know this was something that was already presented was Montreal. Montreal had said play half of your games here this season. And this is something that you have always said, and I want to make sure you get credit for this. And that is just like, why are we talking about expanding when we can't eat? We got two teams right now that
And natural disaster aside, Tampa Bay has been an issue before this.
yeah.
So, it's just the natural disaster has kind of hastened this along, and they're saying, like, the future is less certain that they'll stay in Tampa Bay unless, obviously some kind of a miracle can happen, but it's just frustrating. I mentioned I was in Sacramento this weekend. I didn't get to go down to the field because, I mean, obviously nobody's playing there, but I've been there before, and just knowing that that's where major league games are gonna be played this coming season, I can't help but shake my head. I'm just how are we dealing with the situation like this? Like, how did the MLB let it come to this?
Look, play along with me. I know the chances of this happening are not, there is zero reality to this, but let's play a devil's advocate.
Okay, hold on, hold on. Okay, I've got my playing face on.
And I
Got
don't
it.
want to take credit for this. This came from one of our viewers, listeners, Oscar. What would Major League Baseball look like if all of a sudden the Tampa Rays and the Athletics faced each other in the ALCS in two minor league stadiums?
With what is it, like, I think it was 16,000 capacity at Sutter Field? Sutter
Look,
Health?
how much of a disaster would that be for Major League Baseball? If for some, like I said, the likelihood of this happening is probably, less than 1%.
I don't like this game. I don't wanna play along.
But could you imagine what Manfredi would have to explain if
No,
you have an ALCS
he'd just pick different fields for them to play at and make some excuse.
between the Rays and the Athletics in two minor league stadiums? It's look, I the reason
The
why I
loss
wanted to
the loss of revenue alone in ticket sales would make people's eyes fall out of their head.
Yeah, I mean, and when you bring the revenue thing, the reason why I wanted to bring this up because you have a situation here where the Dodgers are spending $100 million to redo their clubhouses, and then you have situations where the Athletics and the Rays are playing in minor league ballparks. This crossed my mind. I don't know if you saw this story.
Oh.
Everybody who listens to the show knows that I'm a Raiders fan. So you save your comments. You can't hurt me. I'm a Raiders fan. But I don't know if you saw this story in Allegiant Field, the Death Star, where they play. There was a dude who had rented out a suite to watch the game. And he realized that he didn't have enough food in the suite. So he decided to order a pizza and some more wings to have more food. Did you see this story?
I don't really football, so
So he ordered for his suite a pepperoni pizza and I believe 2 orders of wings. How much do you think that cost him, Amie?
are there, like, sweet prices for food and
Well,
regular price?
I'm curious because I have been at a suite at Dodger Stadium. Now, I was not responsible
Oh,
for flipping the bill for food, but I am
us
curious if
us
there's different
plebeians
pricing.
over in reserve, jeez.
I don't know if there's different pricing for food when you order from the suite compared, but just if
But I'm just gonna say $500 because why not?
wow, you are a lot closer than I was. $600 for a pizza and then 2 orders of wings. $600.
That
Now,
better have been a pizza the size of the entire suite.
look, all I'm saying is if you're watching a game from a suite, you probably have money to burn, and this is all on you. I'm not judging you. And I know people will sit there and go, well, how can a team like that charge that amount of money for a pizza and wings,
Well,
Juan? And it's just like,
somebody's paying it. Nobody balked.
exactly. How many times do people complain about the michelada price at
Well,
Dodger Stadium?
he didn't have to pay for it. If he saw that it was $600, he could have been like, "You know what? I'm good. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys."
I mean, look, I'm poor, so in my mind, I can't wrap my head around spending $600 for a pepperoni pizza and 2
I
orders of
bring
wings.
Jersey Mike's and water into the stadium.
I I
So
I'm look, I am all like you. I go to the Norgay and I get my torta, and I bring my torta in there, and I bring my squirt, and the only thing to me that I really like food-wise at Dodger Stadium is that fried peanut butter and jelly and banana sandwich.
oh god.
That is like
That is all you. That
I
is
know
all
it's
you.
an order of diabetes, but yes, that's the only thing that I will splurge on at Dodger Stadium. But
Mm.
other than that, I bring my own, food. But that's all revenue, right? That's all revenue. So when we look at stadiums, these guys are playing in minor league stadiums. They're losing that kind of revenue, which is going to lead me into this next topic. So do you want to say anything else? Any closing words on
Oh,
the stadiums?
you just said that you splurge on your thing. I splurge on apparently stale rally churros, but that's about it.
You love your rally churros. So revenue streams. Like I know there's a lot ticket prices, concessions. I know a lot of times that is really not considered in terms of, when you're signing these players, how much money they're making off of ticket sales or concession stands. I think what's usually attributed in terms of revenue for teams are TV deals, right? And I think that's what separates the Dodgers from a lot of teams in Major League Baseball is that TV deal that they have with Spectrum.
Mhm.
That is very unique to them. And because that deal is so ridiculous and they're getting so much money from Spectrum, and now we got to factor in how much money they're getting for TV rights from Japan,
Oh my
with the
god.
Shohei factor. The TV revenue really allows the Dodgers to go ahead, especially when it comes to free agency, for them to spend this kind of money. What I have noticed, and we've talked about it on this show in the past, and I just continue to keep an eye on this, is the Bally. It used to be called Bally, now it's like FanDuel.
FanDuel broadcasts. Yeah,
FanDuel
or
broad.
FanDuel, and then they're going to be broadcasting. Yeah.
So in some cases where Bally has survived, it has become FanDuel. In other cases where Bally didn't survive and it went completely belly up, well, those broadcasts are being handled by Major League Baseball. So for me, when I look at that, those are teams that are losing revenue because
Mm.
Major League Baseball is producing those broadcasts. So they're not getting money
Did
from
you
a TV.
see did you see the list of who it was?
Yeah, go ahead, give them the list.
So the Reds are the newest to this list. So they'll be MLB will start broadcasting them next season, but the Padres
Yeah.
or the show pods for you, in case
Well,
you
the
didn't
show
understand
pods,
what I said.
this is their second year, I believe,
Mhm.
that Major League Baseball has been producing their broadcasts.
The Diamondbacks, the Rockies, Guardians, Brewers, and Twins. So all of those are being broadcast by MLB at this point.
So those are three National League West teams
Mhm.
that lose revenue. And how are they supposed to compete with the Dodgers in their division when the Dodgers have that huge TV contract and they have Japan, behind them? I don't blame the Diamondbacks for going with the youth movement, developing their minor leaguers, and going with young talent because I feel like that's the way they're going to be able to compete. And when you have their owner publicly, disowning the contract of Jordan Montgomery, begging him, please don't opt in,
Gosh, the stuff that happens behind the scenes, I swear.
I mean, these are finances, right? And I think the Show Pods one is very telling because when they lost Peter Seidler, who was one of their owners, from what you hear from people in San Diego is that Peter Seidler was the one who was really pushing to spend money to bring in players and try to compete with the Dodgers. Now that he passed away, now you got to wonder if everybody else in that ownership group feels the same way, or if they look at the fact that it's like, look, we're making a good amount of money right now. If we add more money to the payroll, it's going to start cutting into our profit. How are we going to manage that? And again, so if you have 3 teams in your division that aren't going to compete with you when it comes to signing free agents, that's got to be a huge advantage.
Well, and then you've got FanDuel, or formerly Bally, who has the Angels, the Braves, the Rays, the Marlins, the Cards, or the Cardinals, and the Tigers. Kansas City's undecided at this point of what they're going to do, and Texas, the Rangers are going to start their own broadcast. So they're launching their own. And so the MLB is saying essentially that they're going to have this kind of experiment going on with the teams that are with FanDuel versus what they're doing. And then once that 2028 season comes around, as some of those contracts are ending, they're going to know like kind of how to structure some of the costs for these things. But the Dodgers are, at least Spectrum is saying that they're not planning any changes to their structure. So it's basically Los Angeles, Boston, and the Yankees. They're unlikely to grant MLB their broadcasting rights. So at that point, like the MLB or Rob Manfred's plan of having everybody under the MLB umbrella, that's kind of, they're basically shooting holes in that for him.
It just reminds me of the time growing up as a kid. I could watch the Dodgers on public television, on free TV. I could watch them. One year they were on Channel 5, another year they were on Channel 11. I wonder if this means there might be a return to that, but I also feel like,
is it just trading one tyrant for another, though? Because if the MLB has a monopoly on it, are they going to offer reasonable rates? Are they still going to black out games? Or, because the majority of LA still can't watch games if you don't have Spectrum.
right, but
So
I think what's going to happen, Amy, is they're going to take more of the Dodgers pie, the Yankees pie, and the Red Sox pie.
Can they do that, though? I mean, I'm sure they can do whatever they want.
Well, it'll be when they go ahead and renegotiate. Here's something else that you can add onto the table when they renegotiate the bargain, what am I calling it?
The collective bargaining agreement?
Thank you. The collective bargaining agreement. I guarantee you, seeing these TV contracts are going to play a factor.
Well, and they're already saying it. They're going to be comparing what's going on now that, the bankruptcy trial and whatnot has gone through. And, some of those, they're getting the Reds on the MLB track this year. And then FanDuel still has some of theirs. It remains to be seen what happens with the rest of these contracts, especially because a lot of them were structured for short-term deals. So 2028 is going to be a year to watch.
Absolutely. All right, next topic. I don't know if you saw this, Amy.
Oh, wait. Oh, pause. Put a pin in that. Since we were talking about broadcasts, did want to mention, if anybody hadn't seen, Luis Cruz was announced as part of an addition to the Spanish broadcast team. So for KTNQ, 10:20 a.m., anybody who listens to the Spanish broadcast for the Dodgers, he will be joining Pepe and Jose Mota. So he doesn't have any broadcast experience. He's a former player, but apparently he has the gift of gab. And as we've seen with Mookie, that was a great addition in the broadcast booth. So hopefully that translates over on the Spanish language side.
Thank you for bringing that up. So for those of you who would go, Luis Cruz, he was also known as Cochito. And he had, I think, one really good season with the Dodgers.
He played partial in 2 of them. So I was doing some research. He debuted with the Dodgers in the summer of 2012. It was great. Came in the 2013 and then kind of started to slump off, and they DFA'd him that June.
Exactly. So that's why I count it as one good season, even though it wasn't a full season. The 2012 season, and to be fair, he got hurt. But again, that's one of those things where you are who you are, right? And that's why we're going to look at James Outman and be like, was last year just a bad year for you? Or, are you an actual major leaguer? But big congratulations to Cochito for getting that job. That's a very coveted job. Look, there is not a lot of broadcasting jobs, especially with what's going on with TV right now. And I know it's a radio broadcast, but to be able to get that, I think is huge for him, especially since he didn't have experience. But look, there's a great Spanish broadcaster. In interest of full disclosure, I am friends with him, Polo Asensio. he is the voice of the Cardenales in Spanish, and he is fantastic. And if you're not familiar with his story, I mean, look it up. This is a guy who started working in offices for the Dodgers, and he ends up being a play-by-play Major League Baseball play-by-play announcer in Spanish. I would have loved for him to come home and do it for the Dodgers, but I get it. Cochito's going to be doing a color role. Polo does more play by play, but it's big hands. Big congratulations. Maybe this is the beginning of a long career for Cochito, and I'm glad that he was able to get the position. And this also, he's an alumni, and I think it's always encouraging to see that the Dodgers went back into their own well to try to give opportunities to their own former players.
And he's played even outside of the MLB. He's played around like the Mexican leagues as well. So he's stayed in and around baseball itself. So sometimes I think that's where like we put a lot of credence on credentials in one aspect, but you and I are perfect examples of that. You have the journalism degree. I don't have that. I come from a different background, coming through different types of work that all led me here, all in different types of communication, but somehow it all ends up working out. So I hope that's the case for him too, and I hope people give him a fair shot.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear him and see how he does. Okay. Anything else on TVs before we move on to
No,
this?
I wanted to make sure while we were talking about broadcasts, we gave him a little shout out. So
Okay. So, by the way, they are starting to announce the year-end awards this week. So on Monday, they announced the Rookie of the Year. And so Luis Gil of the Yankees won.
we were gonna keep it a surprise. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just kidding.
He ended up winning the American League Rookie of the Year. And then the National League Rookie of the Year was Paul Skenes. Now, I thought I was very interested in this category because I feel Jackson Merrill of the Show Pods had a fantastic season. I thought he had a legitimate shot at winning a Rookie of the Year. And then what Churio did with Cerveceros, he really came on late in the season. I think what hurts Churio was the fact that Jackson Merrill and Paul Skenes did it all year. So in the end, Paul Skenes won. Paul Skenes had a lot of attention going into the season. And look, he had expectations, and I think he kind of lived up to his expectations. So am I completely surprised that Paul Skenes won Rookie of the Year? No. In the end, here's the argument, right? Because Jackson Merrill was an everyday player. I think Jackson Merrill, who was a shortstop by trade and asked to play center field defensively, I know people will go, well, what about that play in the playoffs, Juan? And it's just like, okay, we're going to go ahead and define him by one play. But I don't know. Do you have the final vote? Was it even close, or did Skenes just run away with it?
I do not. Yeah, I don't.
All right. Well, we'll look that up. But
Because
really,
we can cover all the awards a little more extensively next week too.
yeah. So the reason why I wanted to bring up Paul Skenes is I don't know if you guys saw this story, but so apparently there is a. Do you have the details on this, Amie?
About the card pull?
Yeah.
Yes.
All
So
right. Set it up.
okay, so he has his rookie debut. It's a patch autograph card. It's a 1 of 1. And so there was a lot leading up to the release, which was November 13th. And so basically whoever pulls that card, I know you sent me the tweet about it, I believe. So I don't want to take away from what the Pirates are offering, but essentially it's like getting the trip to Willy Wonka's factory. So are you going to pull a golden ticket? Are you going to pull Paul Skenes' rookie card?
Well, what I love is what the Pirates are doing. Like,
Take
it. I mean, I would have thought maybe a year, a season, a year's worth of season tickets.
I know this is what you want the Dodgers to do whenever you catch something of substance. So I knew when I saw this, I was like, oh, here we go.
Well, that's what to me was completely jaw dropping. And I get it. It's the Pittsburgh Pirates, but 30 years of season tickets, two season tickets behind home plate. I know the Dodgers would never do that.
But wait, there's more.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to read the full
Yeah,
list?
go ahead. Yeah, do it.
Okay. So a softball game for 30 at PNC Park plus coaching from Pirates alumni, a spring training experience, so a private tour of Pirate City and is it what Ellicom Park? I don't know what the abbreviation. It's all in caps. So I'm like, is it Ellicom or is it Lacom?
I think it stands for something else. So I don't know.
We'll just call it the other place. A meet and greet with Paul Skenes, 2 Paul Skenes autographed jerseys, batting practice and warm up with the team, and other unique experiences at Pirate City and that park. So that's the list that they're offering. There are other people offering other items. I think the Savannah Bananas has their own thing out right now, so they can't offer a Paul Skenes card, but they're offering a 1-of-1 Bill the Spaceman Lee baseball card, they say, which is way cooler and rarer than Paul Skenes, with 1 firm handshake, 2 loving pats on the back, and a $5 gift card to the team store. So, pretty comparable, right?
Look, whoever gets this card, I'm sure is going to do their homework and see how much they can get that card. And here's the thing. I guarantee you who probably ever gets that card is not going to be a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. So they're not going to take that deal that the Pirates gave. But I think the Pirates are making a great deal. But in the end, I think this is Price is Right action here, where
Cash is king.
the total value of the Showcase Showdown, I think is not
Well,
going to be the same. I think it's going to be less than what that card will actually go, especially now that he won Rookie of the Year.
right. Well, and did you see that Ken Golden of Golden Co., the Golden Auctions, who auctioned off Shohei Ohtani's 50-50 ball, they have offered, like, for anybody who pulls that to basically do their homework. Do you take, like, the season tickets? Or do you, somebody else who might have auctioned through them and got a good payout, which, they're alluding to that 4.392 million versus the 300,000 the Dodgers offered. I think that also comes down to what kind of a fan you are, and there's no shade either way of what you want to do with that.
Wow. So they didn't estimate how much that card would be worth, right?
No, because they don't even though, as far as I know, nobody's pulled it yet. Or if they have estimated it, I haven't seen it. I did a deep dive. I searched on Twitter, just kind of to see what everybody was posting, which is how I found the Savannah Bananas thing. I don't know, because you and I debated this before. Do you take the 300,000 from the Dodgers and whatever they're offering, and maybe they offered more privately and it wasn't this, maybe you do get your 2 seats in loge for the rest of your life. I don't know. Or
all right, if this was the Dodgers and not the Pittsburgh Pirates, 30 years of season tickets. And the thing is I'm not confident that the Dodgers would offer me these season tickets behind home plate. They'd probably give it to me at some other, and I don't think they would even do 30 years. But for this scenario,
what if they gave you 30 in loge?
Yeah, I think I would do it. Well, no, I got to really think about it, because if that card went for $4 million, $4 million is going to help my family a lot more than having season tickets to the Dodgers.
Do you think it's comparable to Shohei's 50-50 ball, Paul Skenes rookie card, though?
Look, I don't even think that Shohei's ball should have gone for $4 million.
Well,
So
I'm just wondering,
I'm still
does
trying
his
to wrap
go that?
my head around the fact that that a card can go for that amount of money.
But could it? That's the question. Does Shohei, is his higher leveraged versus a rookie card because he's played 1 year? And we haven't, I hope he goes on to have a very successful MLB career, but this is his first year. And while successful, does that still garner the same amount as something like 50-50 from Shohei?
Look, I think it really just comes down to 2 things. If I didn't need the money, I would take the season tickets. But being that I'm poor, I'm taking the money. Even if it's not 4 million, let's say it's 2 million, let's say it's 1 million, even let's just say it's in the 100,000s. That's going to help me a lot more in my financial situation than season tickets.
What if they did, though? Because I'm thinking of the Dodgers offered that 300,000. What if it was 300,000 and season tickets?
Oh,
do
yeah,
you
for
take
sure.
that, or do you go you try to get millions in the auction? Because to me, that's kind of what it comes down to. Like, I get that the Paul Skenes thing is just the season tickets at this point. But for me, it's like, do I want the hassle of all of that? Or do I just want the easy, like,
Well,
I
that's
don't
a very
know.
good question, because then you do put a target on you at that
Mhm,
point, especially if they know you have the card.
mhm.
Like, that's what we don't see, right? We don't
And
see how
that's
your life gets turned upside down.
and what is the price tag on that? For me, when we were talking about the Shohei ball, I also don't want the insurance on it until I can get it to the auction house or whatever it costs me to house it there with them. I'm now paying for that out of my pocket versus like, just take it.
You know, that's a really good question. I think, again, you don't want to be too greedy,
Mhm.
right? It's one of those things.
Thank you
I
for the
just have
300,000, but I would like 2 seats in loge.
it's like that great sketch. I don't know if you ever saw that. I think it was a Saturday Night Live sketch where Will Ferrell was doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I think the first level is either like $100 or something like that, and he answers the first question and he gets $100 and he goes, "All right, I want to stop there. I quit." And it's just like, but you have a chance to win more, and he's like, "No, I'm taking the $100."
Mhm.
Um, yeah, you do run the risk. But 300,000, probably for 300,000, I'm pretty confident that that card would go for more than 300,000.
Do you want the hassle though? And that's the
Yeah.
behind the scenes stuff that we don't know what that's like. Do you want the hassle and the notoriety that's gonna follow that? And maybe for some people, they might. That might be worth it. For me, I'm like, "Oh, that sounds horrible."
Well, and they always say this, Amy, you don't know how much you value your privacy until you lose it. And then once you lose it, there's no way of getting it back. And that's something that you and I won't experience because we're not like super famous.
I see that from a different perspective because as a woman, just for me and the friend groups that I run in, we are very, very protective of our privacy just for cautionary reasons out in the world. So there are things that I do just on a regular basis, not because I'm famous, but just to hold a lot of that information private. And so I think for me, that's where some of that comes in of like, I don't need any more of that out in the world because it's already exhausting being a woman day to day, being hyper vigilant in that respect. Like you add this layer in and it's going to be like never ending. So, ugh, ugh.
No, you've convinced me. I think I would take the 300,000
And
and
then
the season ticket.
barter for some season tickets.
No, I would. It has to be season tickets in the deal.
Okay.
No bartering. No,
All right.
you're throwing in the season tickets. Because you're right. For me, I would hate the attention. I would
Mhm.
absolutely hate being hounded. People chasing you down. They want to interview you, or worse, they want to do something to you to get.
Mhm.
I don't need that in my life. So you're
No.
right, and it goes back to greed. It's like, how much money do I need? I mean, $300,000 would
You
make a
you
big difference in my life.
you didn't have this yesterday, so now you have it
Exactly.
today, and I'm curious what our listeners and our viewers think too, because there is no right answer, right? We all have different opinions on this, and we just made 4 or 5 different hypothetical situations off of this. Curious what your guys' thoughts are too, because we all have different thresholds and different needs in our life.
Did you ever collect baseball cards?
I do now on a very, very minor scale. Like if something really cool comes around, I'll order it. Like I ordered Shohei's 50/50 card. I had baseball cards when I was little. Um, I had the 1988 World Series team set, and then that got lost over time. And so I think that broke my heart a little bit. So it took me a little bit to come back into recollecting. But yes, I did as a kiddo that and Garbage Pail Kids. And I still have
Yes,
those. I still
right,
have those too. So
right here, Garbage Pail Kids, and so yeah. I mean, I had baseball cards, but I really, even as a kid, I never. There was only one time that I actually tried to make money off a baseball card. Other than that,
really?
yeah, and that was in the 5th grade. I had a Will Clark rookie card, and this guy Jeff Berry, he had a Cal Ripken rookie card, and at that time, Cal Ripken was like one of my favorite players. So I got him to agree to trade Will Clark. I was going to trade him my Will Clark rookie card for the Cal Ripken rookie card. And the next day, I went to school. and he changed his mind and he traded it to someone else, and it just broke my heart. And ever since then,
Oh,
I think that's when I stopped collecting baseball cards, because I was just like, this is some bullshit. This is just not, this is not how you conduct business here. We're in 5th grade, damn it. Can't you have some integrity?
I
You know,
mean, an agreement is an agreement. Did you like spit and shake hands, or I mean,
no,
if you
I
didn't
didn't
do
think
that, it's
I
kind of
didn't think I needed to. I thought he was a man of trust, but obviously,
that's where you went wrong.
this is
Yeah.
what happens when you live in Orange County. You get
See,
swindled. You get
and
swindled. Like,
I didn't trade mine ever, but like when I lost that, like I love the whole season that I had, the 1988 one, but Oral Hershiser was my favorite card, and the fact that I no longer have that one kind of bums me out.
yeah, I had the binder and everything where you put them in those.
Oh,
What do you call those sleeves? I think they were like specifically for baseball cards.
plastic sleeves.
Okay.
I'm not a collector like that. For
Uh-huh.
me, I just see cool cards now that I like and moments that I want to remember, and those are the ones that I buy. I usually buy a team set every year, and then like if I see a good Kike card or like a Kershaw or a Justin Turner, I have like those. And then if there's like a cool Topps card that comes out, I'll make sure to grab them.
Look, I don't know what it's called. ESL por vida. English is my second language. So
It's my first, and I don't know what it's called. So it sounds like we're in good company.
there we go. All
Well, I'm
right.
sure somebody will let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know if you guys know what those actual, when you had the binder to collect your baseball cards and you had individual slots for every card, what was that called?
Weren't they card sleeves? I
Is
don't
that
know.
what it is? Card sleeves?
That's what I call them. I don't know that that's correct. So don't hold me down on that.
Are we getting too fancy for this?
Yes. For this
Okay,
show? Yes.
absolutely. All right. So last topic, we're going to wrap things up. And if you haven't noticed already, this is another fluffy episode. We've been getting pretty fluffy in the off season, haven't we, Amy?
Hey, we're getting ready. We're hibernating in baseball. You got to be a little fluffy.
Well, the time we recorded this was on Monday. The Hall of Fame announced the nominee, or not nominees, the
The
new
nominees are
the new players that are eligible for the Hall of Fame. So, Amy, do you? I know there was maybe like 28 of them. I don't think we need to
20,
name
27.
27.
I think all together, because I have a list of the holdovers and a list of the newcomers.
So, I mean, you brought up some former Dodgers, so let's just go with the former Dodgers, and then I'm going to give you the only name that really matters.
Not if I
So
say
go
it
ahead.
first.
All right, go ahead.
I'm just kidding. You
Go
can have your
ahead. Go
moment.
ahead.
No, so Curtis Granderson, who played with us in 2017, Russell Martin, who was with the Dodgers from 2006 to 2010, and then came back in 2019, and then Hanley Ramirez from 2012 to 2014.
So of those 3 former Dodgers, none of them will get in. In my opinion, I don't think they're Hall of Famers.
What a
And
bummer.
I could be very my take, I don't think is very controversial, but apparently a lot of people disagree with me. When it comes to the Hall of Fame, I do this rant every year.
And you
And
do
that
this
is
rant throughout the year.
exactly. You're either a Hall of Famer or you're not. Okay. If you have to think about it, you're not a Hall of Famer. This whole idea that you get 10 chances to get in, and it's like, well, I didn't get in first ballot, but I got in on my 8th try. I just don't understand that. There's nothing wrong with the Hall of Very Good. There isn't anything wrong with being a really good player and not getting into the Hall of Fame. For me, the Hall of Fame has to be reserved for the elite. And the less people that are in the Hall of Fame, the more it means, right, that you
Right.
got into
You don't
the
want to
Hall of
water it down. It's like bringing in expansion teams.
Fame. There you go. So to me, the only name that matters of the people that are eligible this year is the great Ichiro Suzuki. And if Ichiro does not get in on a unanimous ballot, Amy,
What are you going to do?
Tune in for this episode, because there will be a lot of fist shaking to the clouds. A lot of people are going to get a piece of my mind. There will be a strongly worded letter. Ichiro needs to go in unanimously.
Okay.
And
And
that to me is the only name that matters.
how many words in the strongly worded letter?
I don't know yet. It depends on who I'm writing it to. If it's to Manfredi, it may look like the Yellow Pages. And for you guys listening or watching, the Yellow Pages used to be this big book that we used to use to find phone numbers. But anyways,
Or you used to be taller in the car for some of us short people.
there you go.
I've only done that once.
Look, I'm very excited. I am Ichiro Suzuki is one of my favorite players. I loved watching that dude play baseball. And I feel like if he would have come earlier from Japan, I think he would have given Pete Rose a run for his money for the all-time hits record. I mean, look, I don't feel like I need to argue Ichiro's case to people as to why he should be a unanimous Hall of Famer. But some of these stats are absolutely ridiculous. He had 10 years of 200 hits. 10 years of that.
Good grief.
Did you want to say something?
No, that
I
just
didn't
good
want to
grief.
cut you
No,
off.
good grief was sorry, I was exclaiming in the middle of your your stats. You shocked me.
Because it's impressive. And that's why I would have loved, and this is not even taking into account his defensive prowess out in right field. If you go on YouTube and you can see videos of him throwing out runners on the base pads, like there is one ridiculous throw where he threw it almost up against the wall in the outfield to third base on the fly. And I'm just like, it was just so impressive because this guy was a 5-tool player. Not only that, but he stole bases, he could hit, he was a defensive player. But this is the stat that I was sitting here looking for. Okay, so not only 10 seasons in a row of 200 hits, but also the Gold Glove. It's he's just so the only other name, and I don't know if he's going to get in, is CC Sabathia. So I am seeing his name a lot, and I believe CC Sabathia got to 250 wins. And it just reminds me that we now have to adjust the number because before the magic number to get into the Hall of Fame, if you were a starting pitcher, was 300 wins. I don't know if we're going to see that again. I don't know if we're going to see a pitcher win 300 games.
There were even just looking into this because admittedly, like I follow the Hall of Fame, but not as much as you. Like I don't have an impassioned speech about it. It's not something like if I see the list come out in the off season, it's cool. But I like did a deep dive in even just how they like the rules for it because, again, I know that the baseball writers of, the Association of America is the one that votes on it, but it was just interesting to dive in just to even see like some of the stuff you mentioned, right? They get to be on there for 10 years and but just some of the stuff if they what was it? If they don't meet the threshold to stay on the ballot for up to 10 years, once a player drops off, they're no longer eligible. I was like, so what if it wasn't credible or incredible during the time period when people were voting on it, but later it's deemed like, you know what, we looked back at that person's stats and maybe they should have been in and it's just a different look from different people and it's like they're no longer eligible. Like we can't go back. Oh no, we're losing all the wisdom of Juan because he's on mute.
Well, technically, they're not eligible to get in by the writers, but there's all these committees. There's the
Right.
Veterans Committee. Oh, look, Steve
But if
Garvey is a
you're
guy like that.
but if you're looking for the Hall of Fame though, like
This is why I'm saying that it's either you're a Hall of Famer or you're not. And there's nothing wrong with not being a Hall of Famer. There's a lot of baseball players that were really good players and had great careers. They're just not elite. It should be reserved for the elite. And that way we can avoid this conversation because I think you're right. I think we've gotten to the point with the Hall of Fame criteria that the same point that we've gotten with the MVP, and we'll talk about it with the year-end awards. We don't know what the criteria is. We don't know what we're basing our vote on or what our decision. And that's why for me, it should just be the eye test.
Mhm.
This guy was dominant during the era that he played. There wasn't anyone like him. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
And like I said, if there is any sense of doubt in the back of your head that he's not a Hall of Famer, the Hall of Fame should be reserved for no doubters.
Well, I'm gonna bring you up for a second then, because I know having to give that speech in its 1.5 versions was very daunting for you. But they did also announce last week, I think after we recorded the all MLB, now I have marbles in my mouth. All MLB first team, which was Shohei
Yes.
Ohtani and Mookie Betts, and then the all MLB second team was Teoscar Hernandez. So we had 3 Dodgers again.
Yeah, and not only that, but Shohei won the Hank Aaron Award.
Yes, he did. And also, can we just re-sign Teoscar now, please?
I'm telling you that probably won't happen until the winter meetings.
I know, but a gal can dream.
Look, Shohei signed with the Dodgers in the middle of December.
Yes.
So last year, so that's when I expect we're going to start seeing action pick up in
Um,
regards to free
I'm
agency.
an Aries. I need some instant gratification.
There we go. So yes, so the rest of the week they'll be giving out the awards. Really, I think the only one that matters. I mean, I know we had a big discussion about Dave Robertson, Manager of the Year. Are you curious to see who ends up winning Manager of the Year? Or are you over it now?
It's not even that I'm over it, because I think that the person who does win, like, I'm sure that they did do a great job. There were definitely some comments in our comment section from, I think, the last episode or whenever we discussed that, um, about the merits of some of the other managers. Congrats to them, but like, yeah, I'm just okay. I'll pay attention when it comes out, but I'm not like rubbing my hands together like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till they announce it.
So we will be talking about all the year-end award winners on our
Cy
next episode.
Young, Manager of the Year, MVP.
It's a MVP is really, I think, the only one that really
Yeah.
matters at this point because it's the only one that's going to involve a Dodger. And I think we see the writing on the wall with him winning the Hank Aaron Award. I guess really at this point, it's just going to be a matter: is he unanimous, or did Francisco Lindor pull enough votes to steal that unanimous MVP from Shohei? So that's going to do it for this episode. Amie, do you have anything else you want to add?
Is the Edgar Martinez Outstanding Designated Hitter Award? That's different from the Hank Aaron one, right?
That is correct. That
'Cause
is
he
different.
he did win. Shohei Ohtani won that for the 4th consecutive season as well. Honestly, like I said, I kind of tune out at the end of the year, so I didn't realize we had quite so many awards to give out. I usually just see them come across Twitter like, "Oh, a Cy Young winner. Oh, the MVP," and it's like, okay.
Well, they had an award ceremony on MLB Network for a lot of these awards. Did you see that show?
No,
Not show. Mookie showed up with the World Series trophy,
no, but I did see a snippet on Twitter. So
or as Manfredi calls it, what is it? A piece of metal.
oh, don't make me get my shirt out. The piece of metal winners.
The piece of metal winners. Mookie
I
was.
I guess I know what I'm wearing next week for our award show.
You know what? What I think is really interesting is you mentioned that Shohei won it for the fourth year. It's fourth year in a row.
Fourth consecutive season
Yeah. Okay.
receiving the Edgar Martinez Outstanding Designated Hitter Award.
I wonder if that by the end of Shohei's career, if they have to rename that award to the Shohei Ohtani Award
Poor
because
Edgar.
he won it so many times.
They
But
hyphenate it.
exactly the Edgar Ohtani Award, So it's very interesting. Okay, is that it? I don't want to cut you off.
No, you were not cutting me off. We're good.
All righty. So that's going to do it for this episode. Again, if you've been listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, hit that notification button, give us a thumbs up, let us know what you think about the show. Especially what we discussed in this show. What are your thoughts about, the Hall of Fame? Did you collect Garbage Pail Kids? Are you to the point where you're like, what the hell is a Garbage Pail Kid? Make sure you are following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. Yes, Amie?
They did release Dodgers Garbage Pail Kids, I believe either this year or last year, because I have a couple of them. So FYI, you can get those too.
We never stop learning on this show. Never stop. So she is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.